Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Frederick and I'm glad to meet you again. In this video, we are diving into an essential aspect of building robust and reliable or resilient application. And we're going to have a look on configuring health check in .NET Web APIs. I will be showing you how to monitor the health state of your API, your databases, and any other external services your application may depend on. So let's get started and ensure that our applications are always in tip-top shape. Imagine you are running an e-commerce platform with a .NET Web API as its core. Your API handles various critical operations such as processing orders, managing user accounts, and interacting with payment gateways as an external service. Your customers expect a seamless shopping experience, and any downtime or performance issue can lead to lost sales and a damaged reputation, isn't it? Good. So in here, your API, it is the backbone of your application. So if the API goes down, the entire platform becomes unusable. By implementing health check to the API, you can continuously monitor the health state of your API. And if an issue is detected, you can be alerted immediately and take action before it affects your users. So that is the reason why you need to implement health check in your web API. Let's also see database. Your application relies on a database to store and retrieve data, isn't it? If the database connection is lost or the database itself becomes unavailable, your application won't be able to function correctly. And I believe it is true. A health check can monitor the database connection and now ensure it's always available. If a problem is detected, you can be notified to investigate and resolve this issue quickly. So this also sounds good. So that is the reason why you need to also implement the same health check to your database. Now, what of external services? The application might depend on external services such as payment gateways, third-party APIs, or cloud services. If any of these services go down or become unresponsive, it can impact the functionality of your application. Health checks can monitor the availability and responsiveness of these external services, allowing you to address issues proactively. Yes, so now that we've seen all this, we're going to look at how to configure health check in your web API. All that you need to do here is to install your Visual Studio if you haven't done that. And I'll create web API project. And that is what exactly I have done. I haven't touched it. I've just created the web API project. So if I click on my Solution Explorer, you can see I have the demo from, or that's a template from web API as a web API. Okay. So this health check is an inbuilt package from the ASP.NET team. So all that you do here is to add a service and I'll map the pipeline. Very simple. You go to your program.cs file and let's see how to do that. So first thing first, add the service. So let's add a service in here. That is builder.services. Then you can have .add health checks. After you are done with this, what is the next thing to do? You have to map this. So app.map health check, and now here you need to configure the link, okay, the address where you can access this. It's like when you're using a signal R, when you're creating the hub, you must map an address. The same thing applies to this. So here, let's say this is health. So it means I'm going to navigate to my default address /health, so I can view this health of my application. Great. So now that we have this, let's see. Let's save this application and now let's run it. Remember that we're going to navigate to /health so to get the health state of this API. The API is ready and it is running. All that I need to do here is to remove this and now add, that is the health, you see, and hit on the enter key. And now what do I have? Healthy. So this API is healthy. Yes, it is healthy because it is the default one. I haven't added any database, no external service. So I can say this API is healthy. Let's try to add database. We're going to add SQL database to this. So let's try that and see. And after that, you're also going to check the connection or the health state of our database. Let's do that. So quickly, let's go to our app settings and we're going to create our connection string in here. So I'm going to have my connection string set up down here. And that's the connection string. So here I am having a Docker, I'm using Docker container to handle this SQL connection. But let's say you're not using Docker, you want to use the installer, and which can be accessed through the SSMS, that's the Microsoft Studio, SQL Microsoft Studio. Now, if you want to do that, then you can have your connection string in this form. If you don't know that, then you have to create maybe this my connection. Then you're gonna have your server. So you provide your server. Here I'm using just local, so I can decide to put on dot like this, or I can specify my local like this. Maybe if you're using my SSQL/DB, you can also specify it in here. Then you can specify your database or initial catalog, database name, as let's give this as the same name to my database. Aside from that, you need to set trusted connection to true, trust_connection, set this to true, and the last thing that I need to do here is trust server certificate. So set this also to true. Okay, so this is what you need to do, certificate. Okay, so this, when I'm using the installer, then this is the connection that you need to create. But here I'm using Docker, and the difference here is I'm providing an ID as a system administrator, default one, and that is my password that I use. When you use this connection link, it's not going to work for you because my server is different from yours and my configuration is also different from yours. So use this as a general purpose to handle that when you have the installer as well. Okay, so now that you have in this one, let me just remove this. Okay, so we have our Docker connection, which is running on the port of 1433. Now I can save this, and now we need to install some packages in here. And what are these packages? Let's go to dependencies, then let's stop this app from running. Let's install EF core tools and now so let me get packages. So on the top here, we're going to type in EF core. Okay, so let's install EF core. Aside from that, we need to install tools and SQL server. So that is SQL server. Okay, so do you have tools? Okay, so let's install this. So now that they are installed, let's go to a program. We need to create a DB contest. So quickly we can do that. So maybe let's create known as data. Let's add class, DB contest class. So I'll give it any name, but the name that I'm giving here, it is app.db context. And in that, let's have a constructor whereby this inherit from db context, which is coming from the EF call. Let's create constructor out of this. Now in here, maybe for the sake of this, we'll decide to just create a model. Now this model will handle, so you have our weather forecast. So maybe we can grab this. Then in here, we can create a DB set. So DB set, and that is a weather forecast model. We give it a name of, so weather forecast. Okay, now we need to register this connection in our program. So let's do that. And that is builder.services. So add db context. Let's specify our app.db context class. In that, we need to specify some options in it. So let's make it as O. Now O dot, you're going to use SQL Server, and then in that we need to get the connection. So dot, then we can have access to get connection string. And now what is the name of the connection string that we created? Okay, so let's go to our app settings, and now we can grab there's a Docker connection. So grab your connection that you created and now paste it on here. We terminate it, and that is all. So you know this, you're going to be using this connection as well. So maybe we can cut this, and now we can store this as string, connection string. Okay, so and then let's grab this connection string and I'll pass it on. Okay, so now that we are done with this, what is the next thing that we're going to do in order to check the state of this connection as well? We need to add migration first. So let's go to our package manager console, and now let me make sure that my SQL Server is running in the Docker. So I have it in here, and it is running the port of 144. You can see it is in use. Okay, that's a 1433. That is the port it is running in. Now let's add migration. We did not add primary key, so we have an error here. So let's add primary key to this, and that is going to be an ID. That is all. Let's do it again. Okay, now let's update the database. Yeah, so this is done. So I can now create, I can add, I can post to this database, isn't it? Yeah, we can. So we can do that. Let's actually see if this is running. So in our controller, maybe instead of getting this weather forecast from here, you can decide to get it as a list. So maybe let's return. Let's inject the DB context. So let me remove this and use it as a primary constructor. So that's app.db context. So this is context. Now if everything works well, I must see return Okay, then db context dot weather forecast dot to list. So if it works, if a database is well connected, I must see that is empty list. Okay, so we have return context as weather forecast dot to list, and now what again? Okay, so let's use this tax. So I action results. Okay, now when you run this, let's see if the connection is through. Let's try it and see. So try it out. Yep, so you can see that we have status code of 200, and now we are returning that's an empty list because you haven't added any data or any record yet. Great, so this is working. Now you can see I have the Docker running. So if I decide to close this Docker, let's see what will happen. Now try to execute this again. Okay, Docker is closed, but the connection is still there. So let me open the Docker again. So you can see that although it is closed, but the database is still running. So maybe let's pause. Yeah, this is pause. Now let's try to make a request here and check it out. Yeah, so you can see that we have an SQL client exception, and it is saying that the timeout elapses because we couldn't connect to the server. The server is not responding. So it means the server is not active. Good. So this tells you that the API or the server is working. Let's resume Office. So it is in use in here. Great. Now let's configure this database. So in order to do that, we go to the program.cs file, and all that you should do here is, after configuring this, add health check. This is for the API. Now let's add database. So in order to add the database, we're going to specify next dot, then you see we have add SQL. Oh, okay, so we are not getting that because we haven't installed that package. Let's see, from the NuGet package, let's install this package in here. And we need an ASP.NET Core.healthcheck.ui.client. So let's install this package. So let's apply. Yeah, accept it. And there is also one package left that we need to install. And we need to install, that is the ASP.NET Core.healthcheck.SQL server. Because since we are going to configure for the server, SQL server, we need to install this package. So depending on the type of database that you want to use, if it is a Postgres, if it is a SQLite, if it is a MongoDB, you can have the same package in there, just that I need to specify the database name here, and you're good to go. Alright, so now this has been installed. We now go back here, and after the add health check, we can specify add SQL server. Now you see we have it in here. Okay, so now that we have it in here, we can now go in and configure this. So we can say that this, let's put this in a new line, and now we are saying .add SQL server. So you can see we have, this gives you the overall check of your API. Now this is giving you specific to the database. So this is API, and now there is an SQL server. So here is an SQL database. Okay, now here we need to specify the connection that we created. So let's specify this connection, and now we have a health query. So this is going to run anytime that this service is called. Now we give it a name as SQL server. Now if it fails, if the connection is not through, then we can say that you want to display unhealthy as a status, and now we can specify some tags to be used. Okay, and that is all that we need to do here to get or to check the state of the SQL server. So now that we have this, we can run this, and now we're going to access this. So as soon as we invoke this endpoint, it's going to call this service. It's going to execute this health query and now detect if this service is running or is not. So let's go to /health, and now let's see our API and the SQL server. So we specify /health. Okay, so in here we are having the state of healthy. We are not having the SQL server, isn't it? So let's configure that, and we can do that from our health check middleware pipeline that we have mapped in here. So after we are done with this, we can create new health check options. And now this health check options, we want to specify the predicate here as true, and our response writer, we set it to write health check UI response. Now after doing this, okay, so we need to, there's an issue here. Have we seen it? Okay, yes, we know there's an issue. So let's build this again and run it. And let's access it from our health. Okay, so you can see that here we are having a general status for an API, and that's healthy. When it comes to our entries, the first one is our SQL server, because we've added only SQL server, and now this is the duration that it used to check. The status here is what is healthy, and you can see we have our tags that was we provided. Now with this, if I decide to pause this, pause the server, and now let's try to access this again. Yeah, you can see that we have an execution time, we have an error in here, and it's saying that the server is not responding. You see, so if the database or if the API is down, we can see from here. If the server or the SQL database is also down, we can see that in here as well. You see, so with this, you can monitor database, and you can also monitor the health state of your API. Now, what if in case you have any external service like payment gateway or any other service at all, external service at all, how do you also configure that and check if that service is active? This is also quite simple. Let's say in order to do that, we need to, let's close this, let's resume. Okay, now from here, let's create a simple class, or let's first add a project. So I'm going to add a new project, and it's going to be a web API. Okay, and we are going to assume that this is an external service. So let me say this is external service API, and now we are adding it to this project. Now click on next. Now let's create this project. So with this project, we are not going to do anything to this. All that you need here, it is in the address, because that's what we're going to use to detect. Okay, so now that we have this, let's go to our application, and we're going to create a class in here. So let me add a class, and I'll name it as external service health check. So this is external service health check. And once I have this class created, what I'm going to do here is I need to make a call. I need to make a call to this, the endpoint or the external service that we have created. So in order to do that, this class we need to inherit from the interface of iHealthCheck. That is this. And now we need to implement the interface. So we have this. Maybe let me put this here so you can see well. Okay, so what are we going to do in here? We're going to make a call to this. So without the, maybe I can grab this, and in here, this is what I'm doing. So test service, this must be an async, and I believe you know that we need to inject an HTTP client. So let's use primary constructor HTTP client. Now as we inject it, we need to register that in the program. Do not forget it. It's very important. So we come back to where we have our connection string, and I will say that builder.services .add HTTP client. Are you done? Good. So now we go back to the health service, and now we're checking that we're going to make a call to this. But let's first check it up. Now this external port, when you go to properties, line settings, you must have the API or the port in here 7256. We can grab this, and now let's replace it. We specify cancellation token in it as a parameter, and aside from that, you see we are checking if it is status code. If it goes, return healthy. If it's not, then you know it is unwell, isn't it? So now that we have this, how do we configure that? Let's grab this external service, go to our program, and here we're going to add check. Then just check, you can pass in a t value of a class, and that's what we've done, which inherit from the iHealth interface. And in that is all that we need to do. It is very simple, you see. So after you specify this class in there, you are good to go. Maybe we can specify the name. And what is the name here? The name given to that was external service API. And we can also specify tags. So this tags, we can say that this is just a list of strings. So this external service API. Okay, let's maintain that. Good. So now that we are done, now this also checking for our external service. Now let's run this and check it out. So you can see that we've configured the health state of the whole API. Aside from that, the individual entities in it, like a database, our external service, we are creating a service for that. When you have two or more external services, maybe you can create individual service to check, or you can check it all in one state. But how would you return if two of them, when you have three external services and two are working, one is not working, you know it's going to be difficult. So make sure you create individual check service for each external service. Okay, so now that we have this, we're going to navigate from here. Then as usual, let's go for our health check. And there you go. You can see that here we have the status from general API, it's working. Okay, this is unhealthy. So that's the general state, unhealthy. Why? When it comes to the SQL Server, we have for this healthy. So SQL Server here is working. But when it comes to our external service, you can see that here we have no connection could be made. So even if one of the services that you configured is not working, this is a general state. It means your API is not healthy. It is ill. You need to figure it out. So anytime that you call this endpoint, it's going to invoke it, and it's going to invoke that service, and now check the service that you have, the database as well, and I'll return to you. Now let's run the project. So we're going to run this external service API. After we run, we're going to invoke the same endpoint again to check. Okay, so you can see that this is running. You can see this running on the port of 7256. So now let's try to call this again, and now let's see. Good. So you can see that now external service is healthy. So by doing this, you have able to configure health check for services, external services, and your database as well. Alright, and that's a wrap. By following this tutorial, you now have the tools to ensure your .NET Web API is always running smoothly and can handle any issue with the database or external services. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, and do not forget to subscribe to this channel for more amazing tutorials. Hit the notification bell so you never miss out any update. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.